What really happened between Meghan Markle and Catherine, Princess of Wales? For years, the world has watched these two women from very different backgrounds become part of the same extraordinary family. One was an established member of the British royal family, raised with an understanding of royal traditions and public duty. The other was an American actress who entered the monarchy as an outsider, bringing her own experiences, expectations and a very different approach to life in the public eye. At first, they appeared to have something important in common. Both married into the House of Windsor. Both became mothers. Both faced intense media attention. And both found themselves at the center of global fascination. But behind the smiles, official appearances and carefully photographed moments, reports of tension began to emerge. So, was there really a serious disagreement between Meghan and Catherine? Or did the media transform an ordinary family relationship into a royal rivalry? Today, we're going beyond the headlines. And the truth may be much more complicated than the story of two women simply not getting along. Before Meghan entered the royal family, Catherine had already spent years adapting to royal life. Her relationship with Prince William began long before their marriage, and Catherine gradually became familiar with the expectations surrounding the future queen consort. She learned how to navigate royal ceremonies, diplomatic events, public engagements and the intense scrutiny that comes with being one of Britain's most recognizable women. Then Meghan arrived. Her relationship with Prince Harry moved quickly, and in 2018, Meghan became the Duchess of Sussex. Suddenly, the royal family had a new member who had attracted enormous international attention. Meghan was confident, experienced in speaking publicly and accustomed to a career where she could express herself more directly. But royal life operated under a completely different set of expectations. And that difference would become important. One of the biggest questions surrounding their relationship is whether Meghan and Catherine were ever genuinely close. The answer appears to be complicated. They certainly shared important family occasions. There were public appearances, royal events and moments when the two couples appeared together. But being photographed together does not necessarily mean two people have a close personal friendship. Catherine was already deeply established within the royal institution. Meghan was still learning how everything worked. And the sisters-in-law were also dealing with enormous pressure from the press. It is therefore difficult to know exactly what the private relationship was like. This is an important point because much of the public narrative comes from media reports, biographies, interviews and claims attributed to unnamed sources. The public simply wasn't present for most of the private conversations. And that means we should separate what is documented from what is alleged. Then came one of the most famous stories surrounding their relationship. The bridesmaid-dress controversy. According to Meghan's later account, there was a disagreement involving the bridesmaid dresses for her wedding to Prince Harry. During her 2021 interview with Oprah Winfrey, Meghan said the story had been portrayed incorrectly in the press. She claimed that Catherine had made her cry during the preparations for the wedding. But Meghan also said that Catherine later apologized and sent flowers. That detail is important, because it shows that even Meghan's own account did not necessarily describe a permanent personal war. It described a painful disagreement that was followed by an apology. Yet the story became much bigger than the original incident. For millions of people, it became evidence of a deeper rivalry. And from that point forward, every interaction between the two women was analyzed. A glance, a smile, a seating arrangement, a photograph, everything seemed to become evidence. There is another question that deserves attention. Did Meghan and Catherine actually create the rivalry themselves? Or did the media create much of it? The British royal family has always attracted enormous media attention. But Meghan and Catherine represented two completely different stories. Catherine was often presented as the future queen. Meghan was presented as the glamorous American newcomer. The media naturally compared them. Their clothes were compared. Their public appearances were compared. Their popularity was compared. Even their relationships with William and Harry were compared. And once the comparison began, it became difficult to stop. Instead of simply being two women married to two brothers, they increasingly became characters in a larger public narrative. The future queen versus the American Duchess. The traditional royal versus the modern outsider. And that framing may have intensified tensions that already existed. Then came March 2021. Meghan and Harry sat down with Oprah Winfrey for an interview that shocked the world. Among the many revelations, Meghan discussed her experiences within the royal institution and spoke about her relationship with Catherine. The interview brought the bridesmaid dress controversy back into the spotlight, but it also created a much broader conversation about the royal family's internal relationships. For supporters of Meghan, her interview was an opportunity to tell a story they believed had been ignored. For critics, it raised questions about why private family disagreements were being discussed publicly. And for Catherine, who did not publicly respond to the allegations, the situation created an impossible position. Whatever she said could potentially make the story bigger. Whatever she didn't say could be interpreted in countless ways. So Catherine remained largely silent. And silence, in the world of royal speculation, often creates even more questions. The relationship between Meghan and Catherine cannot really be separated from the relationship between Harry and William. The brothers had once been extremely close, but their relationship became increasingly strained. As Harry and Meghan stepped back from senior royal duties and eventually moved to the United States, the distance between the Sussexes and the Waleses became much more visible. This transformed what might have been a disagreement between two sisters-in-law into something much larger. It became part of a family division. William and Catherine continued their royal responsibilities. Harry and Meghan created a new life outside the working monarchy. And with every interview, documentary and public statement, the differences between the two households became more visible. For Catherine, protecting the future of the monarchy became part of her public role. For Meghan and Harry, speaking about their experiences became part of their new life. Those two approaches were bound to collide. This is where the story becomes especially interesting. There are many claims about Meghan and Catherine's relationship. Some come from biographies, some come from media reports, some come from unnamed sources, some come directly from Meghan and Harry, and some are simply internet speculation. But those categories are not the same. We cannot know every private conversation between two people simply because newspapers report that it happened. We cannot know what someone was thinking based on a photograph. And we shouldn't automatically treat every royal rumor as fact. What we can say is that the relationship appears to have been complicated. There were disagreements, there were misunderstandings, there were different expectations, and there was an extraordinary amount of pressure surrounding both women. This may be the most fascinating question of all. Could Meghan and Catherine ever repair their relationship? Royal relationships can change dramatically over time. People grow older, children grow up. Circumstances change, and sometimes distance can make people see old conflicts differently. But reconciliation would not be simple. There is the history between Harry and William. There are public accusations and counter-accusations. There is the enormous attention from the international media. And there is the question of trust. Even if Meghan and Catherine privately decided to move forward, the public might continue searching for signs of conflict. A photograph of them smiling could become a headline. A photograph of them standing apart could become another headline. In other words, their relationship is not only personal. It has become symbolic. Perhaps the most interesting way to understand Meghan and Catherine is not as enemies, but as two women who entered the same institution at different times, under very different circumstances, and experienced very different pressures. Catherine spent years adapting to the royal system. Meghan entered it during a period when social media, celebrity culture and 24-hour news were more powerful than ever. Catherine largely continued within the institution. Meghan and Harry eventually chose a different path. Those choices naturally created distance. And once the distance became public, every disagreement became part of a much larger story. So, are Meghan Markle and Catherine really enemies? The evidence doesn't allow us to confidently make such a simple statement. There have clearly been reported tensions and at least one publicly discussed disagreement. But whether the two women personally consider themselves enemies is something only they truly know. And perhaps that's the lesson hidden beneath this entire royal saga. The public sees photographs. The public hears interviews. The public reads headlines. But families live their most complicated moments away from cameras. What happened between Meghan and Catherine may never be fully revealed. Perhaps there were misunderstandings. Perhaps there were genuine hurt feelings. Perhaps there were disagreements that became much larger because millions of people were watching. Or perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. Two women, two brothers, two very different paths, and one royal family caught in the middle. Meghan Markle and Catherine, Princess of Wales, may never have had the simple sisterly relationship the public imagined. But their story is far more complicated than a straightforward rivalry. It is a story about family, expectations, tradition, media pressure, misunderstandings and choices. And perhaps the biggest question isn't whether Meghan and Catherine were ever enemies. Perhaps the real question is this: after everything that has happened, is there still a path toward peace? What do you think? Was the tension between Meghan and Catherine mainly personal? Or did the media and royal expectations make their relationship much more complicated? Tell us your opinion in the comments. And if you enjoy fascinating stories about the British royal family, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because there is always another chapter waiting to be revealed.